every Wednesday, we take our security.
DocuSign, a world leader in digital document signing, suffered a major breach in which 100 million user email addresses were stolen. In a public statement, DocuSign assured its
Play
clients that
and
no
our response
sensitive
goes
data,
straight up
such
to
as names, addresses, passwords, or payment card information, was taken, just email addresses. What follows demonstrates how criminals can use your stolen email address and the site they got it from against you, even if they have no other information.
Hmm. Something just doesn't seem right.
Go on. Do it. Do it.
Do what?
Yo, man. Didn't your mother ever teach you to knock?
Didn't yours ever teach you to answer a question? I'll ask you again. Do what?
Say hello to Allison Fields, CFO of Universal Systems, Inc.
Universal? That's a big company.
Yeah, as in Fortune 500 big, and yours truly has them one click away from wiring funds to my offshore bank account.
Oh, you tapped her webcam too, I see.
Yeah, wanted to see on her face when she realizes she got hacked.
Nice. So, how'd you get onto Universal?
ElectroSign data breach.
Oh, that's the one I told you about.
Yeah, that's the one. I bought 500,000 ElectroSign client email addresses off the dark web, and when I ran them against the Universal Systems domain, one came back that was the jackpot. Tim Ellison, CEO of Universal. Since I knew he was an ElectroSign customer, I sent him an email that looked like it was from them. The email requested him to click on a link to a downloadable Word document, which then prompted him to enter his ElectroSign password.
Wait. What? He opened a Word doc that asked for his ElectroSign password?
Yeah, pretty silly, right? He typed it right in. Now we have his full ElectroSign credentials.
Man, aren't fools ever gonna learn?
Guess not. But the kicker is, he used the same credentials for his Outlook Online account.
So you used them to break into the CEO's email account?
Yeah, for real. And once inside, I did my homework, reading through all his incoming emails, waiting for the right moment where I could make a huge score. And that big moment finally arrived, when he got an incoming email notifying him that Universal needed to make a payment on a huge invoice to one of its vendors.
So what'd you do?
I composed an email right from the CEO's account, requesting the payment be made. Only I changed the wiring instructions so that the funds would go to my offshore bank account instead of the rightful recipient.
And you sent the email to one Miss Allison Fields, CFO of Universal Systems.
Precisely. And now here we are, one click away from $10 million. Wait. What's she doing?
No. What are you doing? Put the phone down. Put it down!
Hi, Tim. Yeah, I got your email requesting the $10 million wire transfer, and I wanted to... You didn't send that email or make that request?
Okay, well, that's what I thought. I'll reach out to Phil and keep you posted on what I find out. Oh, and you'll need to call our InfoSec department. Your email account has been compromised.
No! $10 million! Poof! Gone. Just like that.
Hey, don't worry, man. There's millions of other stolen ElectroSign email addresses for us to get our hands on. And each one represents a different person or company we can scam. All we have to do is pick our next target.
DocuSign, a world leader in digital document signing, suffered a major breach in which 100 million user email addresses were stolen. In a public statement, DocuSign assured its clients that no sensitive data, such as names, addresses, passwords, or payment card information was taken, just email addresses. What follows demonstrates how criminals can use your stolen email address and the site they got it from against you, even if they have no other information.
Something just doesn't seem right.
Go on. Do it. Do it.
Do what?
Yo, man. Didn't your mother ever teach you to knock?
Didn't yours ever teach you to answer a question? I'll ask you again. Do what?
Say hello to Allison Fields, CFO of Universal Systems, Inc.
Universal? That's a big company.
Yeah, as in Fortune 500 big. And yours truly has them one click away from wiring funds to my offshore bank account.
Ah, you tapped her webcam too, I see.
Yeah, wanted to see the look on her face when she realized that she got hacked.
Nice. So, how'd you get onto Universal?
ElectroSign data breach.
Oh, that's the one I told you about.
Yeah, that's the one. I bought 500,000 ElectroSign client email addresses off the dark web, and when I ran them against the Universal Systems domain, one came back that was the jackpot. Tim Ellison, CEO of Universal. Since I knew he was an ElectroSign customer, I sent him an email that looked like it was from them. The email requested him to click on a link to a downloadable Word document, which then prompted him to enter his ElectroSign password.
Wait. What? He opened a Word doc that asked for his ElectroSign password?
Yeah, pretty silly, right? He typed it right in. Now we have his full ElectroSign credentials.
Man, aren't fools ever gonna learn?
Guess not. But the kicker is, he used the same credentials for his Outlook Online account.
So you used them to break into the CEO's email account?
Yeah, for real. And once inside, I did my homework, reading through all his incoming emails, waiting for the right moment where I could make a huge score. And that big moment finally arrived, when he got an incoming email notifying him that Universal needed to make a payment on a huge invoice to one of its vendors.
So what'd you do?
I composed an email right from the CEO's account, requesting the payment be made. Only I changed the wiring instructions so that the funds would go to my offshore bank account instead of the rightful recipient.
And you sent the email to one Miss Allison Fields, CFO of Universal Systems.
Precisely. And now here we are, one click away from $10 million. Wait. What's she doing? No. What are you doing? Put the phone down. Put it down!
Hi, Tim. Yeah, I got your email requesting the $10 million wire transfer, and I wanted to... You didn't send that email or make that request?
Okay, well, that's what I thought. I'll reach out to Phil and keep you posted on what I find out. Oh, and you'll need to call our InfoSec department. Your email account has been compromised.
No! $10 million! Poof! Gone. Just like that.
Hey, don't worry, man. There's millions of other stolen ElectroSign email addresses for us to get our hands on. And each one represents a different person or company we can scam. All we have to do is pick our next target.
Okay, welcome back. Let's take our quiz. Okay, we have only one question. So the question reads, which statement best describes secure behavior? So we have to check all that apply. So the first one is, you receive an email asking you to log in and check your messages for a popular site. But first, look over it carefully. The formatting looks right, but the domain is misspelled. You can check messages directly, so you decide not to risk clicking anything in a strange email with inconsistent details. You then follow your company protocol for what to do with suspicious email. The second one says you receive a notification from IT that your company was breached. IT asks you to report anything suspicious that might happen. The next morning, when you try to log in, it says that your account is locked due to too many login requests. You dismiss the message as a bug and you successfully log in. You don't feel that you should report this because you were able to log in. Okay. The third one says you are reading the news and see that there was a huge data breach for a site that you use. It puts thousands of emails at risk. Your work email might have been compromised too. Decided to update and vary your login credentials for everything associated with the email to minimize any issue. Using the same login for multiple accounts puts all of your accounts at risk. The last option says you receive an email from your supervisor requesting that you process a payment request. These usually go through a different department, but he's your boss, so you don't want to question him. You process the payment as requested. So which statement best describes secure behavior? Hello? Hello?
Going through again.
Come again? Hello, come again.
I said I'm reading through again.
Okay.
I think it's the first one.
Okay. The first one. Is that all? Any other submission? Any other person? I think we have to check all that apply. So
I think the third one.
okay, the third one too. Okay, let's see. All right, okay, we got everything correct. Okay, so now today's seminar, our resource person is Renette Alote, and then she'll be presenting on the topic she'll be presenting on the topic risk management and privacy. So Renette, if you are here, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Thomas. Please let me know when you see my screen.
Okay, we can see your screen.
Okay. Good day, everyone. And today we will be diving into two critical pillars of organizational resilience and such. That's why we have the topic risk management and privacy. I'm Renette Ality, and I will be taking us through today's seminar. So basically, the subtopics that we'll be discussing are 10 main subtopics. We'll first have an introduction of what risk management is. We'll delve into the types of risk assessments, that's qualitative risk assessments, quantitative risk assessments. We would discuss risk identification. That's how we understand the potential effects and then disruptions to critical business operations. We'll also look at risk avoidance. That'll help us eliminate potential risks altogether. And then the transference, that's transferring the risk to another source. To start with, we'll have an introduction. Well, we are currently living in a digital world where basically managing risks and protecting privacy are very critical for every organization, because as technology advances and there's evolution of regulations, so many businesses basically face challenges in safeguarding their information and then going through potential distributions. So they having, or the businesses or organizations having stable and efficient risk management ensures continuity and then helps even build trust with their stakeholders or their clients. We will be talking straight about the risk identification categories. Here we have six main categories. So the first type are external risks. These are the type of risks that come or originate from outside the business or the organization. And an example of such thing like that is probably cybersecurity threats, and malicious software, natural disasters. So anything that or any risk that comes from outside the business. We also have internal risks. These are for example, insider misconduct or misconduct by one of the employees, an error by one of the authorized personnel. So this can be either intentional or unintentional. So then probably an employee making a mistake, then your equipment being malfunction can also be a type of internal risk. We have for three multi-party risks. These are from interactions, dependencies, or relationships involving multi parties or entities. And then they can include risks related to probably vendors that you're using to do your daily activities, suppliers or partners, or even infrastructures that are being shared, that is being shared from with others, or coordination issues even. And even power outage can be an example of multi-party risk. We also have intellectual property theft risk. These are potential risks and vulnerabilities associated with the unauthorized acquisition, use, or exploitation of intellectual property assets owned by individuals, businesses, or organizations. Five, software compliance or licensing risks. These mainly have to do with potential legal, operational. So it can either be a legal risk, potential financial, or operational risk, which are mostly associated with improper management of software license and then failing to comply with software usage agreements and copyright laws. Finally, legacy systems risks. These are vulnerabilities and challenges associated with using outdated or obsolete technology, infrastructure, software, or applications within an organization. So these are basically the main six categories for risk identification. Risk calculation. There are two main factors that one needs to consider when evaluating a risk. We have first the likelihood that the risk will occur over a specified period of time. Mostly it's done over a year, but then whenever the risk analyst and specialist analyst is going to do the risk calculation for a business, he or she determines what period this is done over, but it's mostly done over a year. Another important factor to take note of is also the magnitude of the risk. So the likelihood and then the magnitude of the risk impact. And we have this equation here, which is risk severity is equal to the impact times the likelihood. So if you want to calculate numerically how severe a risk is, you multiply the impact by the likelihood. Most of the time, I would like to add also that for the likelihood that the risk would occur, is usually quantified as the analyzed rate of occurrence. That's the ARO. So if a risk analyst um, does the evaluation on your business and says that your ARO, as predicted, um, for for your business is twice a year, that means your ARO is 2.0. So if it's expected probably once a year, it's 1.0. It's mostly um, evaluated or presented in decimals. So if it is probably 1% in 100 years, then you can know it's 0.01. So then ARO is mostly presented in decimals. Okay, risk assessments. And this has to do with the systematic process used by organizations to identify, evaluate, and prioritize potential risks that could affect the achievement of their objectives. We have two main methodologies involved in risk assessments. We have the qualitative risk assessment and then the quantitative risk assessment. So we'll first discuss the quantitative risk assessment. So basically, if someone mentions quantity, the quantity of something, usually statistics or the volume comes into mind. It's always mostly based on something numerical. Now, when um, evaluating the quantitative risk assessment of a business or an organization, there are certain things you have to um, take note of or include in your assessment. We have first to determine the asset value of the assets affected by the risk. So then there are different methods you can use in doing that. So based on the organization's preference, you can either use the cost to acquire, cost to replace, or shaded cost. The likelihood that the risk will occur within a given period, as I said earlier on, is usually done within a year and is mostly known as the annualized risk assessment, ARO. So I repeat what I said earlier on again. If a risk analyst evaluates your business and tells you that um, okay, your ARO is 2.0, it basically means that your risk is that particular risk is predicted to occur twice a year. We'll also have to consider, to the third point, determine the amount of damage that will occur to the assets if the risk materializes. So that is basically the exposure factor. The concept of exposure factor in risk management usually refers to the percentage of an asset that is expected to be damaged if a risk materializes. And if a risk could potentially be completely destroyed, could if a risk could potentially destroy an asset completely, then you say the exposure factor will be 100%. But then if it's only going to destroy probably half of that asset, you say the exposure um, factor would be 50%, because then it will leave 50% of the assets still being able to be used or do the work that is supposed to. We are also to consider to calculate the single loss expectancy. This represents the estimated financial loss that will result from a single instance of a risk materializing. And to calculate this single loss expectancy, you have the asset value times the exposure factor. So let's keep in mind, single loss expectancy is equal to exposure factor times asset value. SLE is equal to EF times AV. We also need to calculate the annualized loss expectancy. This estimates the expected financial loss from a particular risk over the course of a year. So most of the time, or always, when these risks are being worked on or are being assessed, they're done separately. So you don't combine risks when assess sorry when like performing an assessment. Is done risk by risk. So this particular risk has probably an ARO of 2 or something, it's separated. They are not put in one basket and then handed over to the business. They are all separated. So I have an example here that that will help us understand how to calculate all the points that I stated earlier here that have to do with the asset value, analyze risk assessment, exposure factor, SLEs and ALEs. So imagine you manage an e-commerce website that generates revenue through online sales. Your website typically processes transactions worth $5,000 per hour during peak times. You are concerned about the risk of a distributed denial of service attack targeting your website, causing downtime. After consulting threat intelligence sources, you believe that a DOS attack is likely to occur 2 times a year and last for 4 hours before you are able to control it. Now, after consulting your email team, you believe that the server will operate at 20% capacity during a DOS attack. So from this example, basically we are to solve or find the analyzed loss expectancy. When you are set with a question like this or an evaluation like this, you are advised to list down your main points basically. So then now from this question, you know that their hourly revenue is $5,000. The estimated downtime per attack is 4 hours as stated in the question. So using that, you are able to find the potential revenue loss per attack, which will be the 4 hours times the $5,000 that will be lost during each hour. So then you have $20,000. Now, the frequency of the attacks, based on our question, we see that is likely to happen twice per year. So then through that, you can calculate your SLEs, that single loss, your SLEs, that single loss expectancy. And we said earlier on that that is the asset value times the exposure factor minus 1. Here from the question, the exposure factor is 20%. And why am I saying that? Because in the question, well, it was given that the server operates at 20%, sorry, 80%, since the server operates at 20% capacity during a DOS attack. So then basically it's 100%. If it's fully working, as I said earlier on, it's 100%. But if it will operate at a 20% capacity, that means your exposure factor will be 80%. So your SLE becomes the hourly revenue, that's $5,000 times your exposure factor, which will give you as $4,000. Finally, to find our analyzed loss expectancy, we will have the SLE divided by our ARO. Sorry, our SLE times our ARO. Here, the ARO is 2. So multiplying by the SLE that we found earlier on, $4,000. So $4,000 times 2 would have $8,000. To qualitative risk assessment, this usually relies on subjective assessment, unlike quantitative risk assessment, which has a numerical value. So basically, your analyst can come to you and say, this is the percent of whatever is going to happen. These are your numbers. They can give you figures to work with. But then with qualitative risk assessment, it usually relies on expert judgment. And it usually involves identifying threats or opportunities, and then how they are likely to happen, and the potential of the impacts if they are to happen. So as I said earlier on, instead of using exact figures or calculations like qualitative uses descriptive skills or categories to evaluate risks. So most organizations have a description of their categories. So these are usually based on how likely they are to happen, and then the potential of the impact, where the potential of the impacts might be the amount of money they are going to use within the period where the risk has happened. Okay. So supply chain assessment. This is a systematic process of identifying, analyzing, evaluating, and managing risks within a supply chain network. It involves assessing potential disruptions, vulnerabilities, and uncertainties that could affect the flow of goods, services, or information from suppliers to customers. So let's think of this scenario where you run a small bakery that relies on different suppliers for ingredients. You run a bakery, so you need stuff like flour, sugar, butter, and other stuff. And these are key ingredients for your daily production of cakes and pastries. But then recently, one of your key suppliers had a delivery delay because of transportation issues, which caused shortage of flour just before a busy weekend. I'm going to use this particular scenario that I mentioned to explain these four. So from the scenario that I mentioned, there there is a risk, there are risks involved. We have the transportation risks where there was obviously a delay in, or just there was actually not a delay, there was a disruption in the delivery schedule which occurred. So then you've lost money as a result of this. But by identifying potential risks like supply dependence, transportation issues, and then putting in place practical strategies that you can use to mitigate risks like this can actually maintain a consistent productive production in your bakery. So even during an unforeseen circumstance like the scenario I gave earlier on, you are still able to meet your targets and then not have any disruptions in your production for a day. Okay. So risk mitigation. What is risk mitigation? This basically has to do with implementing security measures to reduce the likelihood or impact of risks. So in the scenario that I gave, how would this baker or this bakery owner mitigate it? You can suggest that they probably will have to work with multiple suppliers for essential ingredients so that in case one supplier faces issues, you can always have a backup supplier to fall on. Then to risk avoidance. Risk avoidance involves altering business practices to eliminate the possibility of a risk materializing. So again, to the bakery, how can you avoid certain risks? An example is being compliant, because then you're a bakery, people come in to eat your food, and this might or might not cause health issues depending on how clean probably your environment is. So then, as a baker, you have to stay updated with local health and safety regulations, and then ensure that your bakery operations comply with food handling standards and sanitation practices in order to avoid fines or legal penalties. Risk transference. This involves transferring some of the impact of a risk from the organization facing the risk to another entity. Now, again, to the scenario about the baker, So imagine, this might be too serious, but then imagine you being a bakery owner and then you have a contract with a reputable food supplier for the delivery of ingredients. So then they have a schedule that they work with every day in supplying ingredients to you. And as part of the contract, the supplier guarantees timely delivery and quality assurance of his ingredients. Now, this is a contractual agreement you've had with the supplier. So then, if the supplier fails to meet the agreed upon terms, such as delivering the ingredients or causing delays, then the contract specifies remedies such as compensation or replacement of goods. So this way, you are then transferring or shifting the responsibility and financial impact of a potential supply chain disruption to the supplier. So then you're transferring the risk from basically you being having to suffer because of someone to the person that actually caused you to lose the amount of money. Risk acceptance. This is when an organization chooses to continue operations without implementing other risk management strategies because the cost of mitigation outweighs the risk impact. And it's actually a deliberate decision based on careful analysis, not a default approach. Simply acknowledging a risk without evaluation isn't risk management, it's leaving the risk undressed. So businesses or organizations don't just say, okay, this is what or these are the potential risks that my business is likely to face. This is the amount of money that I'm going to lose. Okay, I'm just going to accept it and then not do anything about it. That's not what risk acceptance is. When there are certain risks that can be um, put aside because the loss is probably not significant to the business. But then if there's something that can be done about the risk and nothing is being done about it, that's again leaving it undressed. Business impact analysis. And this is the systematic process used to evaluate the potential impacts of disruptions to critical business operations. The aim here is identifying and evaluating the potential effects of disruptions on business operations, which include financial losses, operational impacts, legal and regulatory consequences, reputational damage, and customer dissatisfaction. When applying or working on the business impact analysis for an organization, there are four main matrix that are involved. Sorry. Usually for an organization that has different departments, when working on the business impact analysis, it's done department by department, risk by risk, as I said earlier on. You don't just look at a business and say, okay, I'm going to work on the business impact analysis as a whole um, form, but then it's usually divided into parts. So if there are departments, go into departments and work on the risk, work on them risk by risk. So the four matrix involved are MTBF, that's mean time between failures. And this is a measure of the reliability of a system. How reliable are the systems that are being used to do our daily activities? It is the expected amount of time that will elapse between system failures. So an example was given here. If the MTBF is 6 months, you can expect that the system will fail once every 6 months on average. Another matrix here is the MTTR, mean time to repair. And this is said to be the average amount of time to restore a system from its normal operating state after a failure. How long will it take for your system to come back up after it has failed? This is very important for businesses to know because you can't just say, oh, let it fail and then I'll see what will happen. No, because you might lose a lot of money. We also have RTO, that's our third matrix, recovery time objective. This is the amount of time that the organization can tolerate a system being down before it is repaired. The service team is meeting expectations when the time repair is less than RTO. So a company knows that when this is down, I can be able to manage the customers, or I can be able to manage the business to go on smoothly. Like nothing has happened, probably within 3 hours, within 4 hours. So then the system then needs to be able to be repaired before the outage is over. Once um, system is the system has not been repaired after the RTO, then it becomes an issue. Our fourth matrix here is the recovery point objective, RPO. This is the amount of data that the organization can tolerate using during an outage. Sensitive information inventory. This refers to data that, if compromised, could lead to financial loss, reputational damage, legal issues, or regulatory non-compliance. So first, when you want to manage sensitive data, you need to develop an inventory of the types of data maintained by the organizations, places where it's stored, places where it's processed, and then transmitted to. Once every organization has an inventory of sensitive information, the organization can then begin to take steps to ensure that it's appropriately protected from loss or theft. Now, under data management and privacy, we have certain data roles and responsibilities, because once you create a data inventory, you need to have people to manage it. And then so basically they are the ones that are going to safeguard your data, prevent it from getting lost or being stolen. Now, this method involves assigning particular senior executives as responsible data owners for different types of data within the organization. We have the data controllers, data stewards, data custodians, and then data processors. So first, the data controllers. They are the entities who determine the reasons for processing personal information and direct the methods of processing that data. We also have the stewards, who are individuals that carry out the intent of the data controller and are delegated responsibilities from the controller. So these data roles that are assigned to individuals have basically work hand in hand. They work with each other to have a smooth um, or basically to have the data of the organization safeguarded. Third, we have data custodians, and these are individuals or a team who do not have control or stewardship responsibility, but are responsible for the secure safekeeping of information. Lastly, data processors. They provide They are the service providers that process personal information on behalf of a data controller. As I said earlier on, these roles all work hand in hand with each other. Privacy enhancing technologies. These are tools and techniques designed to protect and enhance individuals' privacy when interacting with digital systems and networks. And then these technologies here aim to safeguard personal data from unauthorized access, use, or disclosure, while enabling individuals to retain control over their information. And these technologies include um, probably encryption, privacy-focused software applications, anonymization, where here anonymization refers to a process of basically removing personally identifiable information from data sets in such a way that the individuals cannot be re-identified. And the goal here is to ensure that even if the data is accessed by someone who is not supposed to see it, or an authorized party, it cannot be traced back to the specific individual without additional information that is kept secret from the data. And it also ensures that data cannot be linked back to individuals, as I said earlier on, through cross-referencing with other data sets. This implementation helps mitigate privacy risks in an increasingly interconnected digital world, which then in turn fosters trust and accountability in how personal data is handled and processed. This brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you. Any questions, please? Hi, any questions, please? Okay. Thomas, over to you then.
Oh, okay.
Hello,
So
everyone.
thank you for hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hello, Daniela. Continue.
So, since there are no questions, Rainers, thank you so much for the informative presentation. And to all our attendees, a heartfelt thank you for your presence today. Before we leave here, I want to announce that our organization, Software Week, we offer a 4-month cybersecurity plus course that is crafted to fortify your online defenses. Led by industry experts, our course delves into fundamental principles to advanced techniques in cyber defense. You would also be able to detect cyber threats, fortify networks, and then safeguard sensitive information, all by participating in our 4-month course program. So here's what you should expect from our comprehensive 4-month training. There are a lot of advantages that comes with having or participating in our cybersecurity course training. The first one is that we are going to help you prepare thoroughly for your industry standard certification exams. And then also, we're going to help you build your resume in order to tailor the needs of the recruiter for the job that you'll be applying for. Another advantage worth mentioning is that you'll be also receiving mentorship from industry personnel that would also help you expand your horizon and then assess your collaborative opportunities. We would also have sessions where we prepare you for interviews, and also if you should land a job, we're also going to help you whilst you've been hired. And all this while, you're also going to have an exclusive access to the Software Resource Hub. So I would urge you, if you have a friend that is interested in cybersecurity, I would urge you to urge your friend to enroll in Software Cybersecurity Plus course today and equip yourself with the knowledge and skills to stay ahead of cyber threats. You can get more information by visiting our website, portal.softafric.net, to learn more and secure your spot. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and connect with us on our various social media platforms. Like and share our content. You can also find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Thank you so much for coming once again, and we look forward to seeing you all same time next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela.